Hi, thank you all for watching SABIFF 2022. We are so happy that you are engaging with Animation in Black, our festival for this year. And one of the things that we are really excited about is that we've connected with different animation studios across the country, across the world. And so today we're going to do a profile actually with a company in Uganda called Crossroads. So I'm going to bring to the screen. Okay, there we go. How's everybody doing?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you doing,
Good.
Rita?
It's very late in Uganda now. So I want to thank David and Rita for coming on and talking with us and talking about the wonderful work they're doing with Crossroads. So David, I want to let's start with you first, David. Tell us about Crossroads, who you are, when it got started, on and on and on, and then we'll move to Rita.
Okay. Uh,
There we go, doggy in
Thank
the
you very much
background.
for you know. Sorry about that. Thank you very much for this great exposure, and we appreciate it also the time. So, David Masanso, the founder of Crossroads Digital Multimedia. Crossroads was started in 2011 as an animation studio, which has been revolving around due to lack of skills. We introduced in programs for skilling youth. So for me, really, my dream was really to tell African stories. And I had an opportunity to go in UK to study animation. And during my time studying animation, so the dream was how to come back to Africa to share my skills and also be able to build a company which can be able to tell African stories.
Mhm. Okay. And we'll talk more about that. Rita, let's go ahead and introduce you and your relationship to Crossroads. Tell us a little bit more.
My name is Rita Anyango. Sorry, I was muted. My name is Rita Anyango, and I primarily work at Crossroads Digital Multimedia as a creative director. So I have a background in drama and theater. I actually studied that at the university. And then I had a huge interest in writing. And to join Crossroads, I joined a workshop that was held locally, and they were looking for people who are interested in writing. And so I joined this workshop and I do some writing. And then at the end of the entire workshop, it was about 2 weeks. I looked at because the workshop was in partnership with Crossroads. So I looked at the work that they were doing and their vision and objective, and it fit right within, not just my skill set, but also my vision for what I thought would be animation in the country. And so I started to work with Crossroads then. And since then, a lot of things have changed, a lot has evolved. I'm now actually also one of the directors of the company, and I'm also a shareholder at the company. And like David said, our focus really is production of content. We aspire, to tell African stories, which bring a different perspective to the industry. And yeah, I'm just glad that I've been a part of that, and we'll talk about it more as we go ahead.
So one of the things, so Rita, were you trained or educated in Uganda, or did you go away to college and come back home?
No, I was born and educated in Uganda, so I've never left the country,
Okay.
except for a few
So
visits.
one of the things, and I asked that because one of the things I know, David, you went away to the UK to study. So did you go away to college and train knowing that your mission was to come back home and start up a Crossroads? Because that's important. A lot of people leave, they work, they don't come back. But you brought your skills back. So was that something that was in your mind to do when you went away to college?
Really, for me, animation, I picked interest in animation well at a very young age. And when I talked to my parents what I wanted to do, and I told them I want to do cartoons, so at that time in Africa, they expect to talk about.
When you said that, what was the response? I want to do cartoons.
I'd come from a liberal family, but I fear because my dad has done horticulture, flowers. in 70s in UK, came back, set up a flower farm. I think it was open to them. But yeah, talking about cartoon, they expect to talk about a lawyer, being an engineer, because you had the opportunity. So when I told them I wanted to do cartoon, they supported me. So my dream really was just when I watched Toy Story, because the first film which inspired me a lot was Toy Story, the first 3D computer animation. So I just thought, I think I could try to do this if I can study, if I can get access to the skills. So when I went to study in UK, really my dream was to go and learn the skills, come back and set up a company. So
Good.
even the day I got a letter to join the University of Wales, I thought I was crossing roads. That's why we are called Crossroads. So that was my dream.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's important because you had that mission to do that, to return home and really start up your own, and that is critical a lot of times in building your dreams, doing your own thing. Um, so can you give us like, so Crossroads? So how did the name come about, and how did you all join together to form Crossroads once you returned back home?
Really, the name, as I say, that the name was really started the day I got the letter. The day I got a letter from, I always wanted to do an animation studio, to do an animation company, but the day I got a letter from the University of Wales, I just thought I was crossing roads. So I just, I think I'll call the company Crossroads, because I feel on the crossroads of my dream. So yeah, I finished my degree in animation, because my first degree was multimedia. My second degree was animation, because
Okay.
that was in 2003. Animation was very competitive in Europe, even in America, because 2003, 2002, 2004, every youth wanted to join to be an animator. It was a
Really?
very big, yes, it was huge. So it was very competitive. So after my degree, I joined, worked in a couple of studios in UK, but still my dream was, how can I go back to Africa to set up a company and also be able to tell African stories to inspire children of African descent worldwide? Because I didn't look at it as telling African stories for African, but also
Mhm.
was beyond. There are so many Africans living in Europe, diaspora, and in America. So that was the main dream.
Mhm. Well, that's cool. So basically, so you formed in Crossroads in 2011. Um, can you talk a little bit about in that formation your mission and just some of the initiatives and partnerships that you all started there, and then we'll go into some of the things that you do. But just your mission when you first started the company, what did you want to do? Where did you want this to go?
Really, when I came back to Africa, my dream was to set up a studio, be able to animate films and tell African stories. But the nature also changed because there was no skills. Because animation is a pipeline; it's like a factory. You have artists, you have writers, like voice actors, you have people. You have all the pipeline. So I found out that there is no way I can achieve this unless I build a team.
Hmm.
So in 2012, 2013, we started working with universities, but it was not direct. We could go to universities and we do free workshops to inspire internship students joining us. So we brought in interns, we trained them, picked interest. We started working on short films. We worked on a couple of short films, which won several awards. So all doing this work was to build a team. So also we noticed that the only way to build the studio, to build Crossroads, we had to have a training program. So that's how we started revolving around partnering with different organizations. In 2014, that's when I met Rita on the workshop. So Crossroad had partnered with another local organization which was dealing in arts. Was the organization was organizing art festivals. So also we partnered with the organization to do animation with them, with the writers.
Mhm.
So through that collaboration, patterning, that's how Crossroad had been built. Because if we did not pattern with that organization, Baimba, how did meet Rita to be also a key writer, because I was just a technical person. Even if I had a passion to build a campaign, but by end of the day, I was a technical person. I was not a business person. I was not a writer.
So Rita, when you have a background in writing and theater and all that, so this is a whole new world for you switching over to animation, huh? Tell us about your switch and how you got involved, and what are some of the things that you saw that that Crossroads had to have, with things that you could help it to grow and expand.
Mhm. I mean, obviously, when I met David the first time, and we had a discussion about what they were doing, what he was doing, and the company, and what their vision was. For me, when I got in, it was just the idea of how do we build something that's even more sustainable. How can we get more people involved? How can we get more women involved? Because at the time when I joined, he had even already begun an initiative which he called Women in Animation Uganda, and the objective was to see how can we get more women in there. So I think on my part, I just helped to make sure that we got this organization registered legally, so we can be able to work, within the community, and also engage other stakeholders and things like that. And yeah, so for me, it was about seeing the bigger picture, because my arts background allowed for me to have an insight into the creative industry in Uganda. And so it's not just animation that is still, I would say, at the beginning stages, but it cuts across at the time, even including film. And okay, the music industry was a bit more advanced, but you just, when you look across at everything, so whether you're looking at fashion, the entire industry as a whole is still in the development stages. And so for me, my interest was like, okay, so this is a whole new idea, very different. It requires specific skill sets. It requires a huge team of people. How can we build community around that? And so, like David said, I just got in and tried to see how we could expand the initiatives that we were, doing locally, because now there was the advantage of having someone in who could handle story, like write story and things like that. It allowed for our skills to sort of collaborate, because he is very technical, and obviously has had, he has, as a person, he has obviously studied art and drama as part of animation, but when not necessarily traditionally a writer, it becomes a bit different. And so it was just about how do I, bring more of the drama aspect to what was already in existence. So I think that's sort of how our journey has gone. And it was very interesting, because we're two different individuals, but we had a clear goal and a purpose as to where we wanted to go, where we wanted to take the company. Yeah, and so since then, we've done quite a lot. Like David said, we've done a couple of adverts. We've partnered with different institutions, whether it's universities, whether it's the local communications commission, whether it's partnering with organizations out of the country. Like, for example, Trojan Horse was a unicorn, is an organization based out of Portugal. And we've done some work with them. And specifically, it has just been towards trying to grow the community, providing mentorship, teaching skills, getting people to work on the projects. Because like David probably mentioned earlier, we have a system that we call project-based learning. And the idea of it is, how do we take your existing skill and make you a part of the animation pipeline as you produce content? And so you just, the interesting thing about, animation is that you're not just restricted to storytelling. There's other facets to it. So whether you're just working with sensitization information or things of the kind, and we do all that as a circle, but just we find on our side, the story side is really what we hold strong and what we're trying to push, because that's where we see the sustainability, especially in this country. And also when you're looking at the backdrop of the country, where you have so many young people, we have a population of about 40 to 45 million as a country in Uganda. And you'll find of that population, about 60% of that population is below the age of 15, about 65 to 70. So it's a very youthful, very young population. And we think there's a lot of opportunity, especially when it comes to having people watch content or producing content and things of the kind. So that has sort of just been our dream. So beyond, produce content that is entertaining or fun or relatable to young African children, we also want to reach out to the diaspora so they can actually get an understanding and sort of a feel of how do we live, what goes on in the continent beyond, what you'd find in popular media. Yeah.
So yeah, well, a lot of questions I was thinking as you were talking, but one of the things I want to pinpoint in is because here in the States, we pretty much deal with the whole thing about diversity and inclusion and equity, but you all don't have that diversity, inclusion, and equity on the race schedule. It's dealing more so with the gender. And
Yeah.
so I applaud you for bringing in women who animate in Uganda as a partner in training. Because one of the things that I read is that women in animation, they hold 20% of creative roles in animation. So what they want to do is level it out to be 50% working in animation by 2025. So how is this goal going to make this vision a reality in Ghana, the vision for 50-50 women, And I wanted to know, were they around before Crossroads? Was Women in Animation around, or was that something that was formed in the midst of Crossroads, work being developed?
Okay, I can just answer that. No, there was nothing existent like that
Nothing.
before.
Nothing.
So it's an initiative that David started prior to meeting me, and even I think he met me on a journey when he was still trying to work out the dynamics of that, because he started this studio, right? And at the time when he came to the country and started the studio, when you look at the mainstream Uganda as a country, there was generally no 3D content in animation. And even if you come back and look at all the work that has come out, most of it, whether it's new small studios which are popping up, a lot of all that work can be sort of alluded to, his input. So whether it's people he has trained and things of the kind. And so when he started the initiative, because initially it was easier for the boy, for the male child to come in, because animation in many ways feels very technical, and it stands a lot on the technical engineering side. And like any other science field, obviously, women don't have the freedom to be able to join, at will. And so from time to time, just sort of because of the culture, the general male culture around the sciences, we saw it prudent, and he felt it was prudent, to start this initiative. And I just picked up on it and, tried to expand it even wider, and also try to, encourage different players to get into the field. So since then, we hold different workshops, we do training workshops. Even just last year during the pandemic, we held a virtual workshop, and it involved ladies in Uganda, and we had a partnership with some ladies in Zimbabwe. So it was a very interesting initiative. And we find as a studio, 50% of our staff are female. So I find in a way we have more or less achieved sort of the wider objective. But then also when you look at it from a statistics point of view, where as a country we are pretty small, definitely, the percentages being different here may not have that impact, on the global scale. But we find that it's already a work in progress, and the good thing that the industry here is just starting up. So if we can start off with that inclusiveness, and have that equal representative and have all those perspectives on board from the get-go, then I think we are structuring ourselves in such a way that we'll always maintain that going forward. So even as the industry goes, you're going to always have that representation.
Yeah. One of the things. Oh, my audio is bad.
Oh, we can actually hear you.
You can hear me, okay? Okay. So one of the things, David, I found you came into my orbit when I was watching CNN International, because they were doing a segment on change makers, and we reached out to you. But that is, I mean, you are really bringing serious change. Just the whole pipeline of developing and training kids in this field, which is major. And so I applaud you for that. Can you talk to us about when you talked about pipeline? the animation pipeline and the training components. But can you talk to us about the university that you connected with there, Makiri University, what you study, what the study is, the training involved, and how that whole connection came about with them, David?
Okay. Um, because we were involved in training at Crossroads for a while, I think 6 years, 7 years, which Rita talked about the project-based training, the program we built. So the universities, we have been involved with them also with the internship, because everyone wants to do internship in animation. They are set at Crossroads.
Mm-hmm.
So this year, we just found that how can we scale our training to a bigger audience? Because we thought that the only way to scale our training was to partner with a university. So we wrote a couple of proposals to different universities, and because we have worked with MUKAGO for quite a long time, MUKAGO University accepted us. MUKAGO University is the biggest university in Uganda. So the idea of the program is it's a 1-year program, it's project-based, it's totally vocational training.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also it's totally on project, because the only way you can drive animation to grow in Africa, we need to get straight on skills so that people, by the time they graduate job ready. So the training is divided into three to four sections. The first section is the beginners, where they are introduced to the softwares, how they work, or the computer programs you are using. The
Mm-hmm.
intermediate focuses on character performance, the acting, the expression, everything, which part of the storytelling. Then the advanced focus on pre-production, putting together the whole storyline.
Mm-hmm.
And then after the free semesters or the free stages of the training, they join Crossroads for industrial training for 1 month for free. So
Okay.
also why that's where we can identify them, because that 1 month helps them to understand the whole pipeline, how it works. Even if we have been doing a project based, that means it's a pipeline, but this is the final one. Also to have a feel of the studios, how they work, because the other is a classroom. But the industrial training at Crossroad is where it brings them to the reality, how everything is produced in the animation. So that's
Yes.
how we are running our project with the
Okay.
university.
No, that's great. And I mean, in addition to the university level and the women coming on from Uganda Women in Animation, there's also a kids club that I saw on your site that you're bringing on kids. So you're starting at every level to get to pull people in and get them to a possible career trajectory on what they can do career wise. So that is awesome. Tell us about your series, MUKAGO. MUKAGO, am I pronouncing it correct?
Yeah, MUKAGO.
MUKAGO. Okay.
Yeah. That's okay.
That.
So MUKAGO is MUKAGO. So
well, first of all, what does
MUKAGO
MUKAGO mean? Let's talk.
Exactly.
Everything has a meaning.
Yeah, definitely. So MUKAGO is actually coined from it means different things in different Bantu languages, but the primary idea with MUKAGO is it speaks to a friendship, which is a friendship that is so tight. It's like what you'd call a blood brother, right? So that's what MUKAGO is. That's what it means. And so the idea behind MUKAGO is that it's based off of a wheelchair user, a sporty wheelchair user who moves into this neighborhood.
Which is so unique.
Thank you. So she moves into a peri-urban neighborhood, and she finds, a group of friends who obviously are also very competitive in sports, and they start to find ways they can be able to play with her. And because they're very competitive and mischievous, they always get into trouble. And so they use lessons on STEM to get out of the trouble. So that's the premise of MUKAGO as a story. And so, it's this adventure, and we are running it in very many different episodes. And you know, the idea was, okay, how do we bring something fun, something that's current, but then also something that is actually valuable to young learners in terms of education. So, you know, we threw in a bit of things that we felt would resonate with different audiences. So whether it's just the fierce competitiveness in the sports, or it's just, you know, how do you make use of the information or learning that you get from school? How can you put STEM subjects to use? And we think this is very important because, like I said earlier, we feel it's something that, you know, the local population would relate with, especially when you look at the learning aspects and, of course, the fun aspects and the entertainment. But then we also felt it's something that would appeal to the broader diaspora, especially when it comes to sports. You'll find, you know, there's games that we think are indigenous and local to us, but when different audiences look at them, you know, they can relate. So whether it's dodgeball that they're playing, or whether these kids, it's you know, it's Dutch, jumping Dutch. But of course, the names of the sports are very different, and the context and just generally the rules around them always differ. But we also found it very interesting that we have this girl who is in a wheelchair, who under normal circumstances would not be a part of the community, participate, you know, with other children. And you'll find, personally, when I was a child and you'd have a person in a wheelchair, you'd never really look at them and say, oh, this person is differently able. Children don't have that distinction. They just look at you and they think, oh, let's involve you. But then as you get older, you know, I think adults try to make such a huge issue out of people's disability. Because I just remember a story of a friend where she tells me she had a fight with a girl who was in a wheelchair, and she beat her up and sat on her. And for her, let me just finish. The girl wasn't in a wheelchair, just one of her limbs hadn't grown properly. But in her thinking at that age, she didn't think this child is differently abled. No, they were just having a tussle over something. And, you know, she says, you know, after the scuffle, they went about their business like everything else was fine. And even the child did not take it from the perspective of, oh, I'm disabled, so treat me differently. And in a way, you know, when she looks back to that moment, like in retrospect, she thinks, oh, well, you know, back then I didn't think, oh, she's differently abled from me, so she cannot participate, you know. And neither did the girl who was disabled think, oh, I cannot be a part of this specific argument because I'm different. And so it was just capturing that, like their strength, like how do you allow for people who are even different or have different opportunities to still be included in something that you do. And so for us, we felt it's something that would appeal not just locally, but then also something that other audiences would look like. Especially when you're looking at things like, you know, how do you build an inclusive city and so on and so forth. I mean, that's a huge political debate up there. But just, you know, as children, how do you, you know, find ways to relate with people that are different from you? So those are just some of the ideas, you know, that were playing through my head as well. Yeah.
I love that. My voice is giving feedback. I sound like Darth Vader, but but I love that. I love that you have a child in the wheelchair. Tell us about how that came about in terms of the development of character design of Lulu, of KK, of Yuki, and PT. How did you all come up with the concept of even bringing forward a kid with a disability? I think that is awesome.
I mean, it's interesting. Like, I think it's for me, it was a lot of multi-stage sort of a thinking process, and we also discussed it as a team. But I think for me, it's a bit personal because when I was a child, we grew up as 4 children in a home. I think Ada is off. I don't know if she's still on. So, Ada, should I continue?
Yeah, I had to go cut. I wanted to go cut the ceiling fan off. So that's why. But go ahead.
Oh, okay.
I think that was
causing
the feedback. Go continue talking. I'm going to work with that for a second. Continue talking.
Okay, no worries. So I was just saying, like, for me, it was personal. Creating 4 characters because it's in a way they're sort of representative of my, you know, childhood. There was 2 girls and 2 boys, and we always engaged in very many different sports and so on and so forth. And then, you know, somewhere along the way, we just began to discuss, okay, who are the fun characters that you had around you? And I think for me as a child, there was a girl who was differently abled, but she was such a good dancer. when I was a kid. And I just found how could I use that sort of backdrop to how would that translate for me into someone who is doing sports. And so when we're building the characters, we just go to thinking and saying, okay, so if someone is so it's sort of like the characters themselves are just kind of built around my siblings. That's the truth. So just there are different personalities. So whether it's Petit who likes sports very much, but then he's chubby and likes to cry a lot. Yeah. So I don't want to name names because I don't want someone to come looking for me. But just the general temperament of all these characters are just sort of people I grew up with in the same house. Yeah. So when it comes down to Yuhi, really, the idea of Yuhi was a combination. The character who Yuhi's friend from does not necessarily use a wheelchair, right? But they like sports. They had a different sort of issue with them. They were asthmatic as a kid, and so they had that. It prevented them from engaging in a lot of different things. And so in my head, I just thought, okay, so if I make this something else, right? If I give her a wheelchair, how it became very difficult. At some point, I actually almost wrote her out of the wheelchair because, yeah, I know, like for once, I feel like developing that character allowed for me to be able to. I mean, of course, the experience is very different from you having your own child, who is differently able from other people. But I think it allowed for me to think like that parent and say, okay, so this is my character, right? And she's in a wheelchair. And I really want her to be a part of the sporting events. So how do I design the games? How do I make these children sort of normalize the situation and also be a part of her journey and of her sporting story? Yeah, so like I always say it, like the character at some point, she became very difficult, right, to deal with, and especially even just from the artistic side of it, whether it was building the wheelchair, what it would look like, getting the motion around it, getting her to participate in the sports, it was very challenging. And then also sort of getting the other, and animation has very many different animators, and everybody has to sort of work with this character. And also it came down to, okay, how do you get all these many animators to embody her, to feel like she would, right? To move like she would, because I mean, the traditional thought is always if someone is in a wheelchair, then they're going to be very slow, then there's a lot they cannot do, things like that. So I also had to do a lot of research, not just on Paralympic sports, but then I also had to look at, different sports. I forget the name of the guy. He's actually American. I'll remember his name. But he does extreme sports. He jumps with his wheelchair on ramps, sort of like a skateboard artist. But for him, he's not using skateboards. He's literally just using the wheelchair. And I've been following him, looking at his videos, just to get an understanding of how daring can you possibly be, and the feats he accomplishes. My goodness, they're so big. So for me, just seeing these different sporty people sort of framed for me, okay, this is how I want Yuhi as a character to be, fierce, out there. She owns her wheelchair. And then I just looked at these children and I thought to myself, okay, if I was a child in a place with a wheelchair, how would I look at it? And it just becomes a toy. And so, this wheelchair, I think, made it very flexible for us to sort of play with the different characters and use it for different reasons. They use this wheelchair as a ramp for jumping over things, entering into different compounds. They ride on it. It's like a huge toy car that they can all enjoy. So I just thought, that aspect of it would be a lot of fun.
So how was that team brought your vision to life with this story through the art of animation? How was that for you? And David, how was that working with her to develop these characters and bring them to life?
Really, for me, okay, for the technical side of it, because by end of the day, yeah, Rita, she's a writer, but also she knows how to use the 3D programs we are using. That's another important thing. When she joined us, one of the most important things also, she took time to understand how this program works, which is very, very important for a writer, that when you are writing for animation, technically there are things you may assume we may not achieve them because of the computer, because of the software. And developing MUKAGO, I think it took like a couple of years. So I think she started developing MUKAGO, that was 2017. I think 2017. It was that thing, it evolved around. I remember the day when we focused, I said, let us animate fish. I remember that time we changed the character to the fish. No, this can't work. So it used to go around. Let us try A, try B, try this. When it came to characters, because one of the most important thing, I think my idea was, how can we animate like creatures so it can work? They later said, no. People won't relate to creatures if you're going to tell African stories. Then she came up with, let us focus on real cartoon, which look like these kids, so they can relate to them. So it was a teamwork, but because she's the creator, she's the main storyteller. But also as a technical person, you can look at a story and say, yes, this is it. This story is going to work. It's less to us, less to people. Because when you talk about the games, because you came up with the idea of the games, and you saw the when we were screening MUKAGO to different parts of the world. I remember I went to West Africa, and we had the screening of MUKAGO in Burkina Faso. And people there, they were saying, oh, these are our games. We thought they were Ugandan games, but they are beyond Ugandan games. But the names changes, but everyone will relate to them. And there was a lady from Netherlands who watched MUKAGO, and she told me all the games there, they used to do them in Europe when they were young. She was a old lady. So I think also that was a huge opportunity, that anyone who was watching MUKAGO was looking at it beyond Uganda and also beyond Africa. Yeah.
We have the dog in the background giving us sound effects. I know David said it was raining outside. It was rainy season, raining outside. The dog was probably like, let me in. So listen, we're just kind of wrapping up, but I do want to ask, how can parents, children, educators, how can we see Crossroads outside of Uganda? I mean, where are you now? I mean, where can we see your works and see the series outside of Uganda?
So we are working on actually putting it online. We are going to put MUKAGO on a YouTube channel just to give other different, people access to it. And then we are also still pursuing sort of different links with the possibility of putting it on an on-demand platform. But we just thought that YouTube would be a great, platform for anyone who can just have content there and access it. So that's something that, we are pursuing, and we'll link it directly to our website, so that as soon as you click on it, the links are available saying watch MUKAGO here, and and we'll start with that.
So we definitely want to know when you're going to be able to bring it to YouTube. So for now, can we say that people can go to crossroadsanimations.com and follow and continue to get more information?
Yes, you can do that. But we expect by October, to start streaming it there.
So that's
next time. Yeah.
Awesome. Because we do have I've come across like Akili and me and BB and there's different animations coming from other countries that are on YouTube. So I say yes, do YouTube. That is a way that it can connect worldwide, and the stories are very universal, told from African perspective, which makes it really, really special. So any upcoming plans or goals for expansion with content or products or training that you all have out there that you can discuss now?
Not necessarily. Well, like David said earlier, we are starting the university training. We began this year about August. And so we want to expand that. And we think locally it's going to have a huge outreach. We've also had different conversations with different people on the continent to see how we can, create virtual classes that, whoever is interested in the art, can get an opportunity. The one thing that I will stress though is that because the industry is in its infancy, we we're still going to continue pursuing our sort of, we run initiatives that are intended to encourage, spread the word, just empower, different local artists and show them the different opportunities that exist. So yeah, I'm going to continue with that as well, just expand it, see how much impact we can have. Yes, and then also with the stories, I mean, beyond MUKAGO, like David said, we've had other works that we've produced locally for different studios. So the work is out there. And then, I mean, we hope by the end of next year, we should also start on another series. I won't give you the details for this one. but all the information is going to be available on the website, and we're hoping to be even more engaging on social media, and specifically also on WhatsApp. On Facebook rather. Okay. We have pages on Facebook, so whoever is looking to follow up with our work, you can find us on our Facebook handles, and then we have a YouTube channel as well. But yeah, so for MUKAGO specifically, we'll see how to package it so that it's more available for anyone who would be interested in that.
And your YouTube channel is Crossroads Animations?
Crossroads Digital Multimedia. Right, David? Do I have it right? It's Crossroads Digital Multimedia. Yes. Uganda. Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you all. You are definitely fulfilling your mission, which is to develop an artistic team and tell fun African stories using animation sustainably. So I appreciate you all for taking this time with us. We look forward for showcasing, your work at the library. We're showcasing things at the Carver Library. So just want to share that with our youth audience that's coming for that. But you all keep doing what you're doing and keep building in Uganda and beyond. I would definitely hope to see on YouTube. I'm gonna be looking for that and keep it up following you all. So thank you, and y'all have a good night. Get through the rainy season.
Thank you, Adan. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I'll be in touch.
Yeah.
Right. Take care.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.